Calling our meeting to order. This time we'll have invocation by Chaplain Frank Stevens, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, I pray for our city leaders. I thank you for their faithfulness to the responsibilities they have for leading the city of Lynn Haven. We thank you, Lord, for our city employees that daily come to work and faithfully serve the citizens of this great city. Bless our first responders, our police, and our fire departments. Keep them safe. Keep them out of harm's way. I speak this in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time we have our public commentary. We will start with Ms. Weaver, 306 Alexander.
This is actually a compliment, which I'm sure we're not used to at these meetings. I stepped down from a job where I was a senior because we weren't given the service that we should. So I reached out, and I want you to know now I do a lawn and clean toilets, and I was a OJI and an instructor. Reached out to Ms. Vicki Gaynor about our lack of responsibility of where I work and what was needed in that big ditch in front of the place I work, which I can't say. Long story short, she had me get in touch with Mr. Bobby Baker, who then got me in touch with the county. The reason the street does not flood by Whataburger is because I reached out to the city, Ms. Gaynor, who got me in touch with Mr. Bobby Baker, and initially the county did not want to do their part. So again, I reached out to Vicki Gaynor, who reached out to Mr. Baker, and we actually started getting things done. The storm hit, and the reason that street is no longer a river is because we work together instead of being so negative. Then I reached out again this year because they said they come once a year, and the gentleman I spoke to, Mr. Zeri, could not believe that I was so persistent. Well, I said, I live in the city of Lynn Haven. We need to stop this flooding. So he knew how it meant to me, so they came and cleaned that whole ditch out, took it all out. Now that, again, that street should not flood. But I think we spend so much time being negative and talking bad about people instead of seeing the good stuff. We all fall short, and I need you all to understand that. We all fall short. We all can be judged for things that we have done behind the scenes. Let's focus on the city. Let's keep things going in a good way. Stop all this hate and vote with a conscience. Grace is real. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Freddie Yeoman. All right. Wesley Lockhart. Lockwood. Wesley Lockwood, yes, sir. You're down for public commentary. Okay. Paul Baguette, public commentary. Ryan Scray, public commentary.
Good evening. So I'm seeing agenda items 11 and 12 in the consent agenda. It just doesn't make sense to me that you guys are gonna go through and do that when agenda 20, item 20, talks about setting a procedure for doing that. I mean, it'd be like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before you set the instructions for how to make the sandwich. It just doesn't make sense. So I would appreciate it if you guys would pull those two agenda items out and just push them after 20, so you guys could set your procedure and then decide who you're picking. It just makes more sense. Other than that, I do have a couple questions. I recently had heard that there's a temporary or emergency, I'm not sure the right term, but occupancy order for this building due to some fire suppression stuff that's not done. I was wondering if we could get a timeline on when that'll be completed. And also, I guess I'm just curious what the final plans and timeline are for the old City Hall building. I know that there had been plans for that to be like commissioners' offices and something else. So if you could share what those plans are and the timelines involved, those two things would be pertinent for me to know tonight. Thank you.
All right. And Bernie Thompson.
Hello, Bernie Thompson, 8317 Front Beach Road. I just have a couple simple questions. It should be easy. So for people who don't know, back in 2017 or so, the voters passed a half-cent sales infrastructure tax to be spent on infrastructure. And my understanding is that the county would collect all that money and distribute it to cities. Every city would get a bunch. I think this is the 8th year that cities have received money. I believe Lynn Haven was projected to receive in the neighborhood of $20 million for infrastructure from the half-cent sales tax, of which we're in the 8th year. So my first question is, can you tell me what the amount is that Lynn Haven has received from the half-cent sales tax that the county's collected? I think it's been 8 years. My guess is the figure's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 million, something like that. Am I close? Does the city know that number? I was hoping this wouldn't happen because...
Well, no, we don't respond to your question. You just make your statements. We'll respond on our reports.
Yeah. Has the city answered that question, or is it a secret?
We'll respond on your report, on our reports.
Okay. My second question is, when the half-cent sales tax passed, I believe the city took out about a $10 million loan, a bond. It should have been paid off from the money received. Y'all look so miserable. I just want to know, how much did the city get? And did the city pay the bond back? Do you know, Ms. Vandegrift, Commissioner?
We'll respond during our reports, Mr. Thompson.
I see.
Yeah, we don't
I mean,
engage in
a head nod? I mean, has the bond been paid off? Yes or no?
We respond during the report, sir.
Commissioner Warwick, are you allowed to respond?
It's not about allowance. It's just our procedure. So we just try not to engage back and forth. That's all. Are those your questions?
Yes would be. I'd already been sitting down. Yes or no?
Okay. You can stand for your other 3 minutes, but we'll respond during our reports.
Extremely gracious, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to make a spoken public record request, please. I would like to get any and all emails, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and today, with one search word. And the search word is Bernie, spelled B-U-R-N-I-E or B-E-R-N-I-E. I look forward to the simple answers. Commissioner Warwick, no answer?
With that public records request, you would need to actually put that in writing. Thank you.
I do not have to put it in writing. No, it can be spoken. You learned something today.
Put it in writing. Thank you. Ms. Jerry Parker.
I will not
Sir,
put it in writing.
Sir, we're done. You can go sit down.
You learned something
Thank
today.
you. You'll go sit down. Thank you. Ms. Jerry Parker.
Jerry Parker, Rhett Place. First of all, thank you, Commission, for addressing the 18th Street pothole situation. That was done exponentially. I appreciate that. I spoke to Mr. Lightfoot about the situation in my neighborhood in Magnolia Meadows off of 17th Street about digging out our ditches. It's been dug out multiple times. We've never had a flooding problem except that flood during July 4th in 2013, I think it was. So what has happened is I have pavers, and because you guys dug out my ditch again, my pavers are sinking where y'all dug out. So Chris has told me that they're going to repair that for me, hopefully soon. And quit digging out Magnolia Meadows. We don't need it done. Lord. So I've heard several people say that we're being negative. We're not being negative. We're exposing it. We're exposing the negativity in this city. There's an infection in this city, and you're just putting a Band-Aid on it. You're not fixing it. You're just covering it up. You're just ignoring it. The other phrase is better together. When we get the infection out, we will be better together. And that needs to happen. The other phrase is move forward. I want us to move forward. You know how we move forward? We get the infection out of here. There's several people that got favors after Hurricane Michael, present and past. If you ignored the corruption, I'll say it again, and didn't speak about it, you don't deserve a seat on this commission. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. I'll keep my report brief due to the length of the agenda. First, just want to remind everyone about Election Day on tomorrow. Remember to vote at your polling location. And second, if this is Commissioner Vanegrift's last full meeting with us, I want to say thank you, Commissioner Vanegrift, for your service to our commission and to our citizens. Thank you for always giving us a different perspective, sometimes not as gentle, but a different perspective, and your insight has always been much appreciated. So thank you for what you have done, and I hope you enjoy the time with your green girls, and I know they'll keep you busy. All right. That is my report.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I would also like to say, Commissioner Vanegrift, it's been an honor to serve with you, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. Learned a lot from your leadership, and I appreciate you. And so I guess I have a question for the attorney. Can I just answer the public records request now, or do I have to go through the official, like, sending it in, or?
So the question is a public information request. The request isn't for records. So the records request has been made, and until he withdraws it,
Okay, what if I just
he'll
say?
have to comply
what
with
if-
it.
What if I just say the answer is none?
You can certainly respond.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't make the records request go away.
Okay, well, all right, well, okay. It won't take that long. All right, cool. And so to further along that, I can answer a question. It's been paid off. I don't got a problem saying that. As far as the numbers, may have to do a public storage request because I don't want to give false numbers with it because they're not in front of me. So as far as everything else, I just want to say thanks for everyone coming out. It's been a really busy last 2 weeks, but in a fantastic way. I've talked to probably more people in the past 2 weeks than I've talked to since campaign season. And it's been fantastic. Feedback from things ranging from RVs to Marina Island, to Board of Adjustment. Thank you to everyone that put their application in for Board of Adjustment. I reached out to all 5 applicants, and they all responded, so thank you for that. You made the decision hard, and that's a good thing. Speaking of which, I was, even before Mr. Scray said anything, I was going to make the request that maybe, I feel like with Miranda Barnes, we've already kind of talked about kind of grandfathering her in on the old way, but I do think that it would be a good idea to move number 12, just so that we have more time to talk about the 5 applicants, since we didn't have a Friday pre-commission meeting. So with that, I'd like to, well, what is the, what agenda number is? All right, if we could, I would like to make a motion to move agenda item number 12 to after number 20, so let's say 21.
Second.
All right, any discussion from the public? Yes, sir. Mrs. Gray? Oh, okay. All right, City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed.
Thank you. And I also want to do a special shout out to all the people that made this meeting happen, because there's a lot of work that went into this meeting. So as far, whether that's setting up the budget, the RV stuff, all of that, there's a lot of work that went behind the scenes to put all of this information together. And us on the commission, we're not the ones that put it together. We just talked to people. So there's a lot of legwork behind the scenes that's not been seen. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone that did that. And thank you to the staff and everyone that worked for the Easter celebration and all of that. And I appreciate you all. And that's my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Parno.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Vandegrift, thank you for everything. It's a pleasure knowing you. I'm sure I'll keep seeing you. So, and tomorrow's vote is very important. So everybody get out and vote. So, and I'll just thank all of our employees and first responders and police and dispatchers. So, thank y'all. That's my report.
Commissioner Ward?
Don't have a whole lot. Been busy for the last couple of weeks. If you weren't here for the workshop we just had at 3:30, recommend you go back and watch it. Had a lot of good information about the Marina Island project, and a lot of great questions were asked and answered. As far as the surtax bond, if you go on our website, there's actually a debt schedule on there that shows how much we owe on all the different debt. I think it gets updated once a quarter, once every 6 months. I think I looked at it a couple months ago, and last I looked is that surtax bond has been paid off. And then as far as the half-cent surtax, how much we bring in, that's also online in the budget. But I'm sure the city will get that information for you too. But on the budget, it shows how much revenue we bring in on everything, not just the surtax bond. So it's for public record to view. And that's all I have. Make sure everyone gets out and votes tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Vandegrift.
I'm going to keep it short. We have a full meeting today. I just would like to thank the staff members that worked on Saturday for the Easter egg hunt. It was great. There were 40,000 eggs, and my granddaughter and I timed how long it took to pick up 40,000 eggs. In case you're interested, it took 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. City Manager?
Yes. A couple of things before I call Kiki up, because there will be an audit report that will come through in terms of the surtax. Yes, that is paid off. We paid that off in 2023. And a commission had previously passed, and a couple of commissions, that when we would receive money for the surtax, that we would sweep the account and pay that account out, and it was paid off. We collected over a period of years since 2016, $18.4 million. And we have in the surtax, as I said last meeting, $3.5 million. Okay. Vicky.
Good evening. Questions about the warrant list? Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of highlights I'd like to bring to your attention. We are beginning this year a summer camp. We've never done this before, but Justin and his team are going to be doing that. It's going to be basketball camp, soccer camp, STEM camp this year, and volleyball camp. All those dates will be on our Facebook page and website, so we're pretty excited about that. Another great thing that's happening here in the city of Lynn Haven, as you know, we have a Boys and Girls Club here. There's only one to the north right now. We are full for the summer. They have over 100 kids, and now they have kids on the waiting list. That is a great place to have after-school care as well as summer care as well. And the crawfish at the Bayou Park and Preserve has been repaired. We celebrate Arbor Day on the 25th, and we will plant some live oak. And I just like to give a very big shout out to LHPD. They had a really great letter from giving them accommodations and commending them on the work they did in helping Ozark Police Department. The investigators here worked with the investigators there, led to the arrest of over 300 people in an organized crime ring in the United States and abroad, on the borders. And so we got a really nice letter from the Ozark Police Department. They took in custody people who were allegedly supposed to be in the United States. They were from Romania. So great job, Police Department. And I have other things, but that will be my report because I'm going to ask Ben Clark with James Moore to come forward and give you an update on the audit.
All right, Commissioners, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
I'm going to try to click this. Is this good to go, Vicki? With the
Here it is.
presentation? While they're pulling that up, I'll tell a joke. So I have 4 kids, and they had about 250 Easter eggs, and it was gone in about 60 seconds. And I did not pack any of those. My wife did it all, so she's fantastic.
No. Mayor, if you mind, do you mind if we let Ben come back just a little bit later when they get that uploaded?
Whenever you want. Or I can do it now without it, but whatever you want. But
Yep. It's up to
Whatever you
you,
guys want.
Mayor.
We'll just wait for the PowerPoint.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you. All right, City Attorney.
I have no report.
Okay. All right, looking at our consent agenda, course striking number 12, moving that to agenda item number 21. Approval of minutes for 8/25, approval to temporarily close Highway 77 for the annual 2025 4th of July parade from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Approval to close all city offices on July 7th. Approval to appoint Miranda L. Barnes to the city's Board of Adjustment. Approval to declare asset Nifty Lift 4242 as surplus and authorizing staff to auction off. Approval and authorization for the mayor to sign Amendment 3 to federally funded Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. Approval and authorization for the mayor to sign Amendment 3 to federally funded Community Block Disaster Recovery Grant, and that's MOO 83. And also approval and authorization for the mayor to sign Amendment 3 to federally funded CBDG-R grant for MO 125. Then we also have approval of contingent settlement of Benjamin McWaters versus the city of Lynn Haven. Is there a motion for this?
I'd like to remove 11 for the same reasons, remove 12,
All
put
right,
it after 20.
Second.
all right, so we'll make 11 number 21 and 12 number 22. All right, is there a motion for the other content of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and second. City manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. Final reading of ordinance 1177, the Unified Land Development Code, ULDC. Public hearing opening at 5:58 PM. City manager, if you read that ordinance by title only, please.
Ordinance number 1177, an ordinance of the City Commission of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Unified Land Development Code to modify the parking standards for major recreational equipment on residential property, defining major recreational equipment, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Any comments, city attorney?
Just one I want to highlight. In the car provided with this agenda item, I indicated that the total number of equipment that could be parked in a residential unit was 2, essentially 1 + 1, 1 in the front or side yards, plus 1 in the backyard. That math was wrong. You can actually have an unlimited amount in the backyard, but you can only have 1 in the front or side.
Okay.
I did want to make that clarification.
And when you say the one in the front yard, that's what's highlighted in yellow.
So that was at,
On
that should be highlighted in yellow, yes.
Okay.
There was a comment made at the last meeting that maybe that number should be higher than 1, and so but I didn't feel like I got direction to change it, so I just wanted to highlight it so that if you don't direct me to change it, it'll remain 1.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, commission, is there any further discussion about this? Any additional questions for staff or changes we need to make to this ordinance?
Well, you know how I feel about this when this first started. I didn't even want to put a number on the number of recreational equipment in the front side yards. So I said, if we need to put a number on it, 3. So that would be my motion for 3, and then to remove the part about not being able to park them on vacant lots. And that would be my motion.
And then what part is that? I saw that earlier in here. Is there a particular number there that you're striking?
Yeah, it's under 1A
47,
3.
37, 1A3.
Yeah, major recreational equipment should not be parked or stored on any vacant lot except where such vacant lot adjoins a lot on which a principal structure under the same ownership is located.
All right, so you want to strike that. Okay. Is everyone okay with striking 3?
Well, that's my motion. I didn't know if I got a second.
Is there a second for that?
Is that going to bring us to a vote on the whole thing? I have questions that were brought up to me, and then the people are going to speak. And overall, I mean, right now we don't let them on the side yard, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Unless it's covered, I believe, right?
Covered. It has to be.
All right, so hold on. We still have a motion on the floor. So do we want to rescind the motion and have discussion, then come back with the motion, or do we want to?
I'll rescind it.
Okay.
just for the sake of discussion, I was hoping that, because in the last 24 hours, I received several phone calls, and I mean, and one of them was that, you know, what we're creating is going to actually be more intrusive and more bogging down our code enforcement than what we originally thought. So, I mean, we have the ability to let people put them on their side yard, in their backyard. We're defining an RV as, you know, an RV, a trailer, you know, a boat, a jet ski, but we have right-of-way issues and line-of-sight issues. So why are we bunching everything together? Well, the one thing that I find from what I've been told and talking to folks is that, you know, you have an RV in your driveway and you're my neighbor and you're backing out of your house. You're looking toward that side of the road to clear. You can't see what's coming until you get past the sidewalk. You know, that's going to be an issue going forward if people could put their RVs in their driveways. That's a safety issue. Okay. We have a right of way from the middle of the road, 30 feet in most situations. So it was just brought up to me, why not just say you can't, you know, you can have something in the driveway, but you can't encroach the right of way. You can encroach the right of way, then you know, you can't have your RV there. And that's just for RVs. As far as a boat or a jet ski, as long as people can see past it, I'm okay with it. If you could have one, if you could have it in your driveway, you could have it on the side of the yard or the front of the yard. But RVs in general are vision impeding, and it's a tough thing. So that was brought up to me. I wanted to get it out there because I have 3 different people that have talked to me 3 or 4 different ways. So I know I'm bringing up more questions at the 11th hour, but they've been brought up to me, and I wanted to get them out there.
All right. City Attorney, on page 47, B, and then 1, where it says may be parked or stored, and then Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, or I guess at least Roman numeral 1. Would that cover what Commissioner Perno is referring to in regards to the right-of-way? Or we need to change some language in this portion or in another portion?
So the way I understand his recommendation is that 2 little I's. The driveway, it currently reads the driveway of the owner's residence, but not in any portion of any public right-of-way. He wants that to apply specifically to RVs, whereas little 4 would apply for all of the other toys.
Okay.
Well, what if we changed the definition that I guess it would be page 48 where it talks about what major recreational equipment is? Why don't we just change this to just specifically RVs, campers, and motorhomes? Because I feel like, to me, that's been the biggest thing that people have asked me about is, hey, we've got jet skis, we've got small boats, we've got kayaks. Like, it's kind of ambiguous as to what is actually a recreational vehicle. And to me, a jet ski is not a major recreational vehicle. And then you have questions like, well, what if I have a trailer, but I store 3 jet skis in that trailer? Is that 1 item or is that 4 items? You know, so I think if we just scaled it back, just talked about campers, RVs and motorhomes, and then if we want to go back and talk about jet skis and things like that, we can do that later and get more specific. But really, when this was brought to us, the issue was RVs, campers, and motorhomes. That was the reason why this was brought to us in the first place. So why don't we change the definition to only that? Strike out the vacant property, and then make sure they're out of the right of way. Say it can be on the driveway, allow it in the side yards, and call it a day. I feel like that would just address everything like that.
All right. Ms. Madden-Griff.
Well, as I stated at the last meeting, I'm opposed to all of it. the 300 RVs that they've been referencing knew what the requirements were when they purchased their RV. It's in the code. All they had to do was read it, which specifically says, on the side yard or in the backyard. If we pass this ordinance, instead of 300, there's going to be 1,500. And we want Lynn Haven to remain as a beautiful community. The code enforcement right now cannot keep up with the issues that were implemented when we passed the maintenance code. I mean, it's a constant thing. So now we're going to add to the codes or the code enforcement officers to determine if it's at the right angle. Is it impeding on the right of way? I know I'm probably, again, the minority, but I oppose it completely. I'm for staying with what we have and tweaking it. Thank you.
Just point of clarification, the current ordinance does not permit it in side yards. So it's only permitted to be stored in backyards. The new proposed ordinance would open up the side yard and front yard areas.
That's good too, backyard.
All right, so any additional comments on the RV ordinance?
I mean, I agree with a lot what was said over here. I've been saying this since we started it. And like I said, I didn't want to put a number on it, but I thought, all right, I'll try to compromise. And I said, all right, 3. No one seemed to pipe in, but now.
Well, because we were splitting hairs with a number when we really didn't want to include, I really personally didn't want to include boats or jet skis or whatnot.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got a lot of coastline and people people like to keep their trailers nearby. This is what I've been told and echoed over the last, and it's, you don't hear it so much until it's coming to the vote. And I've gotten some good insight from folks over the last 24 hours for sure.
I just learned my lesson last time we went through something like this.
I know.
And I vowed I would never do that ever again.
But what you're saying, I get what you're saying, and Commissioner Vandegrift, I think if we just did it where you couldn't park in the right of way, it kind of takes care of itself, because a lot of folks, you go 30 feet from the middle of the road, it's hard to park a 35, 40-foot RV in your driveway.
Yeah, all for it.
You know what I mean? So, and it takes care of itself in one way. And I think it's kind of what we already have, except for the fact they let you do it for 24 hours. And
Yep, that's new. That's new.
yeah, okay.
I guess my question would
Give
be, sorry.
You're okay. You're okay.
My question would be, I think one of the sticking points here is the side yard. If we change the definition to only RVs, campers, and mobile homes, we probably would still want to have a restriction on the side yard if we're going to say that you're allowed in the front yard as long as it's on the driveway. So I was kind of doing some math. We have all different lot sizes across the city. I mean, it's changed since we've changed that you can split lots and stuff. But if, I think on average with being able to split a lot at 50 by 150, that's around 7,500 square foot. So you could say something like no more than one RV on a side yard per 7,500 square foot. So that would, for the small lots, that would limit it to 1, but someone that owns 3 acres, maybe they could have 2, I don't know if that's something we want to consider, if that's a sticking point. If not, disregard everything I just said, but that sounded to be a bit of a sticking point when we were talking.
All right, so we have 3, 0, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2. All right, so Commissioner Vandegrift, would you consider just having one in the front yard and striking the side? having one in the driveway, as long as it's not in the right of way, and then just striking, having one on the side yard?
Putting all the pressure on the code
Or,
enforcement officer to determine whether or not it's appropriate, if it's registered, it's running, it can go on and on. No.
got it. So you just want to keep it in the backyard? All right. All right, at this time, we'll turn to public comments. We have our list here. Corey Langford.
Good afternoon. Some of you are doing the right thing, and I appreciate that. Ms. Vandergrift, I don't really know if you understand why this is happening. So code enforcement, so there's 300 people right now that's in violation, okay? We said, well, we don't want to write 300 tickets, so let's address it. And I applaud the city for addressing it. This is what should happen. Okay, so we're saying, well, we don't want to write 300 tickets, so let's allow it. All right, but if we allow all of these restrictions that are listed, well, you can't park in vacant lots, you can't be this many feet from the side fence, you can't be this. I mean, so you're recreating the problem that you're already trying to solve. So now instead of having 300 violations, you're going to have 700 violations because you added 7 new restrictions. Don't make any sense. So the rest of the stuff, you know, parking on vacant lots, you should be able to park on vacant lots. I mean, let's talk about what we can do on vacant lots. At this point, I can mow my grass and I can pay my taxes on it. That's what's left, you know? So remove the vacant lots. Look, you can't put a number on this stuff. I mean, it just, you're going to get down to splitting hairs, okay? Like you talked about, there's some people in Lynn Haven's got 3 acres. Mr. Bashir's got a huge spread over there. You know, so when you start trying to put a number on something, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So just stick to, keep it simple, stupid, okay? Allow parking in the front or side yards and driveway. We won't even talk about the front yard. You park in the side yard and the driveway, all right? Keep it out of the right of way. Right, so we allow vacant lots, parking in the side yard in your driveway. It don't have to be on some paved surface or whatever, okay? And we, like I said, we remove the vacant lot stuff. You know, and we gotta get this back in the box as far as the definition of what a major recreational vehicle is. That's the other problem, that where we're going to have the issues with all of these now new violations, because we've changed the definition as to what a recreational vehicle is now. Keep it to motorhomes, campers, and leave it at that. All right, let's don't make this too difficult. This is not rocket science. There's an easy answer here. All right, we solve the 300 violations now by allowing people to park in the driveway and in their side yards. We don't put a number on it. All right, but we say, hey, you got to be 30 feet or however, whatever the right of way is. If it's 30 feet off the center line, you got to be 30 feet off that. That's not hard for me to take a tape measure out there and measure it from the center of the street out 30 feet and figure out, well, this clown's got his camper parked in the right of way. That's not hard. All right. That's what I would say. I mean, this has gotten way out of control, and let's just keep it simple, stupid. Thank you.
Jose Torres. Okay. Brian Gray. Vicky Williams.
I agree. I'm against all this too. It's very intrusive. This is a very active community. We have jet skis, kayaks. We're a boating community. We're active. We got stuff. And I don't know why this has come up. And I don't really care, but it's got to go away. You got ordinances and rules in place, use them. Thank you.
Debbie Crutchfield.
Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, and Commissioners for hearing us. I too am a homeowner. I have boats and jet skis and kayaks. I have almost all of it behind my fence in my backyard, which I understand, but none of my stuff is in the right of way. But if you limit the number of vehicles, the way I was reading that ordinance said only one recreational vehicle or boat or jet ski on the property complete. That's what brought me out here tonight, was any restrictions that depth. So my wife and I, we moved out here to Lynn Haven. My aunt owned the house for 21 years before I did it. I've owned it for 18 years. We've only been living in it for the last 4 because it was a rental property, and we took it through, fixed it up after Hurricane Michael, and this is our retirement home. This is the community that I've wanted to live. My grandfathers are buried here in Panama City. This Panama City was where we came to celebrate Christmas and to celebrate summer vacations and stuff like that. When my wife and I got married 50 years ago, we had our honeymoon out on Panama City Beach. We love this community. When I first saw my aunt's property, I said, this is the property for me. She passed on. My mom and dad got it, and I bought it from my mom and dad and fixed it up and restored it, and it made it into a nice, thriving house. So I feel that that this is an encroachment on our liberties and on our personal property, and I feel it's against the Constitution personally. And I really would I like what Mr. Corey said, and I like that direction. I wish you would very much consider it that way. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Donna Morrell.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My husband and I moved to this community a couple of years ago, and we think it's fabulous, and we really love the vibe here. We are very active semi-retirees. We enjoy camping. We enjoy boating. That is what drew us here. We just couldn't believe how amazing this area is. We do also believe in law and order and things being orderly and neat and tidy as well. We have no problem with neighbors and anyone who wants to have a camper or a boat or whatever they do. I'm a keep it simple person too. Why can't we just keep things neat, orderly, make sure, first of all, they're registered. People just leaving stuff laying around, that's not cool. But for us, we just like, if it's neat, it's orderly, it's fine. It's no problem. So that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Morrell. All right. Okay, so, all right, we've heard from our residents. Okay, yes, sir.
Sean Mullins, 904 Virginia Avenue.
I see you now. I saw Marina Island. I couldn't understand the first word there, so got it.
Okay. I get it. Yeah, my handwriting sucks. So my questions are, and when I first read this ordinance, it didn't have any of the what you could do. So now that what I saw, what you can do, I'm okay with a lot of it, but I'm still having issues with the restrictions and the definition of front yard. My driveway is 35 foot wide and 85 foot long. It goes from the back of the house to the front of the house. Now, if there's restrictions, how many trailers and campers can I put in my driveway? Real question. I can fit a 45-foot camper RV in my driveway. I don't have one, but I could. I work for a living. I do construction. I have a dog business. I have trailers in my driveway at all times. They're not an eyesore. They're parked nice and neat and in order in an orderly fashion. If somebody has a problem with it, I'm friends with all my neighbors. I'm pretty sure they'd come over and say, hey, will you clean up your mess? I'm okay with that. The reality is that Lynn Haven is a place that people desire to come to. RVs aren't scaring people away. It's not Callaway. It's not Springfield or those other towns where everybody's running from. They're coming here because they like the way we do things. We allow people their freedom. I mean, we're a mixed bag, but the reality is that we have a ton of people here that have the ability to buy these toys and use these toys. And if you're saying they can't have them, you couldn't be further disconnected from the people that voted for you in the first place. Let me share.
All right, thank you. Additional public commentary? Yes, sir, and then we'll go to the back.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Keel. I live on Kentucky Avenue. When I purchased my home in Lynn Haven a couple of years ago, I purposely purchased it in an area that did not have a homeowners association because I didn't want the restrictions or the protections that come with a homeowners association. I understand there needs to be limits on what people can do with their property. Things that cause a public nuisance or health issues fall into an ordinance category. This ordinance appears to me that the city is trying to act as a citywide homeowners association. What will be the next thing that we want to dictate? The color of the paint on our house, the type of roof, the swing set that I put in for my children, or grandchildren in my case. So I had a few questions. I put them in writing and submitted them to you. So you could address them if I don't get through this. Reading the thing, would a pair of jet skis on a tandem trailer, be one major recreational equipment item, or would it be two? If someone had, let's say, 8 kayaks on a single trailer, stacked, on a kayak rack, would that be 8 items? Or would it be one? When you look at the definition that's in with the ordinance, a kayak is a boat, according to the state of Florida. So I just think there needs to be some clarification there. When we start putting a number, you can only have so many of this or so many of that. We need to define it further so we actually know what we're talking about. In the last election, people of this country and the state voted with their hearts, and I think it was for less regulation. So I just don't think that this ordinance should be passed as it is. It appears that people can store as many items in their backyard as they want. But with the city in the MDR and HDR zones, the lot sizes, the side lots can be as small as 5 feet. Well, if you have a pontoon boat, or let's say a 22-foot runabout, there's no way to take something with a 9-foot beam and put it down a 5-foot lane. So that's a concern of mine. And, another thing is it doesn't appear to be, well, we're trying to keep up the image of the city. Because I could buy a 1973 Chieftain Winnebago motorhome that's faded out and broke, as long as it runs and runs properly and is tagged, and put it in my yard.
All right, thank you. That's your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
But I look forward to maybe someone will address that written questions.
All right. Retired Chief Delonge. Then we'll get to Mr. Scray. Anyone else after Mr. Scray? Okay.
Good evening, Commission, Mayor, City Manager. I think what we're doing is overreach. As it's been stated several times, we're not in an HOA. Commissioner Vandergriff lives in an HOA, and people respect that. But I think if we keep it simple, as it's been stated several times, if it's tagged, insured, and can fit in the driveway, let the residents have it. Y'all are overreaching. We're a boating community. We are also camping community. There's a lot of us that camp. We don't have the boat. We have campers. So don't specialize to one citizen versus the other 20,000. So I think if you keep it simple, if it fits in the driveway, it's licensed, it's insured, it should be able to stay. Now, I've spent more money on my RV than some of these houses, and I don't think I should be penalized for this. And I did my homework before I purchased it. The police chief told me it was okay to park there. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. Mrs. Gray?
So I feel like you guys have like three things to consider here. Is it more important for you to have an aesthetic for the city, what our front yards look like? Is it more important for you to protect property rights, individual rights? Or is it more important for you to consider safety? You know, safety often gets brought up, but we talked about line of sight, accidents, people backing out of their driveways. My main concern with that for RVs is, yes, RVs obstruct stuff, but so do vans and trucks. Cars, even compact cars, technically obstruct your line of sight. Let's say anybody have a 4 or 5-year-old? I think yours is close. Little 4 or 5-year-old chasing a ball, runs out from behind a car into the street. Street's 25 miles per hour. Somebody's going the legal speed limit. Do you know how much space they need to stop before they hit that kid? 115 feet. With a 6-degree field of view. I don't know how many of you guys have done geometry recently, but I had to bust out an old geometry book to figure this out. But to get a 6-degree field of view is next to impossible with the rules you're considering. So you have to make a compromise somewhere. So 30-degree field of view is way too small. So somewhere around 20% is usually recommended in a lot of traffic safety guides. But in order to achieve that, you're talking a 23-foot setback from the edge of the road. So if you include the traffic lane center line like Pat was talking about, you're looking at about 30 feet off the center of the road. So far, I think he's the closest, but not just for RVs. Everything. Because either, again, you're concerned about aesthetics, property rights, or safety. And if you're not concerned about safety and you're going to just restrict RVs, I mean, that's mixed up to me. That doesn't make sense. So focus on safety and property rights and try to find the compromise between those two. And what I would want to know is, maybe the city attorney can answer this, is if you guys set an ordinance that says nobody can park in the city of right away at all, and somebody's parked there and a kid runs out and gets hit, of course the property owner has liability, but does the city have any liability if they don't restrict that? I mean, it's just like if you got trees on the corner, you got to keep them clean. It's all the same stuff. So, I mean, I get it, the aesthetic. I mean, honestly, I don't care about the aesthetic, but the property rights and the safety, you got to try to find the blend between those two if you're going to allow it at all. So all I would ask is that y'all consider the safety aspect, but not just for RVs, for everything. If you're not going to consider it for everything, then why bother considering it for RVs? Just keep everything out of the right of way.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we've heard from our citizens in regards to their thoughts on these particular ordinances. We've heard varying points about the particular ordinance. Some is to say restricted only to what was recommended, RVs, campers, and such. And others say let the language continue to be inclusive, and others say to strike it out altogether. So we do have some varying opinions there with that. We did have some questions from Mr. Keel. I didn't receive that email, so.
It's right above you.
Oh, okay. Right. Anyone like to address any of these questions?
I guess the one with the 2 jet skis and a single trailer, would that be just considered one?
Yeah, because it would be one trailer, so yeah, that'd just be one.
I would think it'd be one.
Yeah. That's how I see it, is as one when I see it. So yeah, I would say, Mr. Keel, to your questions, I see some of these are asked differently, but sort of pertain to the same idea, like the 4 ATVs, the jet skis and such, that if it's on one trailer, then it's just one. It'd just be one vehicle, or just one, as opposed to 4 different ATVs that would be on one trailer. So I would say that would also apply to just being one. You can come back. So you come back to the microphone. Yeah. I got you.
With side yard lots as small as 5 feet, and the city code allows that in the MDR and HDR sections, how does the city propose that someone put their boat in the backyard, or a camper, or a motorhome? If you only have 5 feet between your house and the fence, it's sort of hard to take something with an 8-foot, 9-foot beam and put it down that 5-foot thing, unless you're going to get a helicopter and lift it, and that's going to be a little inconvenient and expensive.
The ordinance doesn't require the parking in the backyard, so the solution would be to park it off-site.
Okay, so if you had 2, or in my case, I have a house on the bayou over here and on Maxwell, and I have a boat. And I keep my trailer at my house because, I've got an old boat, and sometimes old boats break. And let's say I had an emergency, I could call my son and say, hey, meet me at the boat ramp, and, I could maybe make it to the boat ramp and load it up. Or in the case of a storm like Hurricane Michael, when it came through, it was a Category 1 or a Category 2. Then, in Florida, we don't care a Category 2. Most boaters don't anyway. We're prepared. But when it gets to a Category 3, I begin to care. And then all of a sudden, that one became, it blew up and sort of came right at us. So if I'd had my trailer at my house, I probably could have taken the time to go get my boat and pull it off-site. Whereas if I had to go down to an off-site storage facility someplace, retrieve my trailer and come back, I could have lost valuable time, and it could have made a safety concern for me. So you don't care? Or you just don't have an answer?
I don't have an answer to you.
Yeah,
There is no
okay.
emergency exception in this ordinance. There is no emergency exception in this ordinance. It permits 24 hours anywhere on the property. I didn't draft this ordinance. I can't take responsibility for it. So,
Well, it just seems like some of the things haven't been completely thought through. Like, whether we define something as a single or a multiple item. I was a distiller, so I made liquor, someone for a living. And so words have meanings, and especially when you have to deal with other people with those words. I had to go to war with the state of Alabama one time because of what the words said, and what they said, oh, well, we interpret it differently. I just want to have a clarification to make sure that we know what we're talking about. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. I do think his questions and some of the other questions and what City Attorney just stated do go back to the fact that we're piggybacking off of someone else's ordinances who have different problems than what we have. And so maybe something we need to go back and just review again, as Commissioner Vandegrift said, we had an ordinance in place, so we're not necessarily like starting from scratch, we could look at our ordinance to see how does it resolve the 300 violation, the 300 violations that we have, which is the initial reason that, we were asked to review this ordinance, was so that we could, hopefully come to a resolution on how to help resolve that issue and give direction to code enforcement as to whether or not they needed to enforce it and issue those tickets, or whether or not, we would make a change or some type of adaptation to the ordinance that we, already had in place. So I'm not saying that this is a bad ordinance or that we should not have utilized this as a reference, but seemingly it has certainly created more questions for us and more stir than we initially thought about when we went with this ordinance. So I said the attorney is right. We gave her direction to bring us this ordinance and then sort of adapt it to what we thought would be needed for our city. But seemingly there's a lot of adaptations that have to go into this to really, meet the needs of what we have for our community. So.
Mayor, could I make one point? So the code that we already have in place, that code was working pretty good. The only question I had for the commission was, could those RVs, and we'll go back to RVs, be parked on the side? They were already being parked in the back. Could they be parked on the side? And it really didn't address any of the other recreational equipment. It was really just the RVs. And other than that, the code that we have, the ordinance we have, was very, very simple, could easily be managed. And so that was surely the question for the city, if those RVs, which points to safety, as one resident said, were in the line of sight and could not see and impeded on that next neighbor. That was really the big question. This is how this came to be. And so one of the things that we were just allowing until the commission made a decision, some of them were being parked on the side, and the ones that could be parked in their driveway were being parked in their driveway that were very small and compact. So I think that we really do need to look at Lynn Haven and say what's conducive for Lynn Haven.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for hearing me. Rick Huggard, Florida Ave. Thank you for what you do. First of all, Lynn Haven, as was said, is a toy town. We have a lot of boats, we have a lot of recreation here, and we love the area. Don't restrict what we do in our land. If it's insured, if it's tagged, if it's not impeding the right-of-way. I've got buildings out here on 77. When I pull out from Florida Ave and go down one of my side streets to come on 77, the building is blocking the right-of-way. Okay? You straighten out what we got in another way and leave our stuff alone. Leave the toys alone. If it's a mess, tell them it's a mess. Let them straighten it up. Give them an opportunity. You don't have to issue a ticket. Just give them a warning. Just say, hey, move it. But I can see areas where I go where there are, RVs or whatever out in the right of way, and it does block your traffic to turn. But we also have telephone poles, and we have buildings like coming across the street here. There's a telephone pole in the way. So let's keep it simple. Let's not, as long as we're paying land tax, as long as it's insured, as long as it's tagged and it's not impeding the right of way, leave us alone, please. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, if we wanted to scratch this ordinance and then go back and review our actual ordinance that's on the books, how would that work in this situation?
So, to pass, I can, based on the comments I've received today, I can prepare a brand new ordinance. We can call it 1177R because it'll be a new version, but the same topic with the same purpose and intent, that is based on our current regulation, but adds side yards or limits it to the driveways only, as long as it's outside of the public right-of-way, and that it must be maintained in an operable condition and properly licensed and insured. Those were the two conditions I feel like I heard universal consensus or at least support for. I can also we can scrap the rest of the ordinance, but I can bring you back that to react to, and you can at least have a discussion to see if we're getting closer.
Okay.
And so we can bring that ordinance back for first reading at one of your next meetings.
Okay. Commission, how are y'all with that?
I'm good with that. I mean, you know how I felt from the very beginning on this. I had a feeling this was going to happen, and here we are.
Yeah.
Now, in this new ordinance, are we gonna, the one that she's bringing her, or doing it from scratch or whatever, are we gonna talk about side yards too, or?
Okay, it's up to you. What I heard for sure from at least the public comment was allow it in the driveway. So the current text of this ordinance, the driveway of the, permits them in the driveway of the owner's residence, but not in any portion of the public right-of-way. So I will definitely add that in. If after seeing it, you still want to add side yards, we can certainly do that, and the visibility triangle. Again, it gets less simple the more areas we expand into. But I will do whatever you direct me to do.
Yep. So if you could do that, make that 1177R, revise it with what you've just stated, and then give us a chance to look at it, and then we can discuss from there. Everybody good with that?
Well, you'll have a new commissioner on the council, so I'm sure that they would love to have the opportunity to provide input.
All right, well, we are going back to the old ordinance, though, so I'm trying to give you something before you leave.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're not voting on this ordinance, so we just close public hearing? All right, closing public hearing at 6:44 p.m. Opening public hearing at 6:44 p.m. Final reading of ordinance 1179, amending the Unified Land Development Code to establish Marina Island Overlay District. Hold on here. Okay. And City Manager, if you'll read that by title only, please.
Sure. Ordinance 1179, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the ULDC to establish the Marina Island Overlay District comprised of the areas shown upon the attached and incorporated Exhibit A to the ordinance, specifying permitted land uses, minimum lot sizes and setbacks, maximum densities, height, and floor area ratios, parking standards and street design elements, and standards for accessory structures, permitting alcohol sales throughout the district, providing for transfer of density within the district, providing standards for landscaping, lighting, and signage, providing that in the event of a conflict between the provisions of Marina Island overlay and other applicable ordinances, the provisions of the Marina Island Overlay District shall control, authorizing codification, repealing ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Amanda?
Thank you. This is the final reading and public hearing for Ordinance 1179, the Marina Island Overlay District. So there is going to be another presentation from the developer in a moment. So this is just a brief one, seeing as how you've had a workshop and you've had your packets to look at. The overlay would allow for development orders to be reviewed in accordance with this overlay for certain items that the city is permitted to accommodate. So they still do have to submit development orders. This is not giving them permission to go ahead and develop. Setbacks, size of lots, size of homes, widths of streets, landscaping, signage, infrastructure, and permissible uses are things that they are able to have in this overlay. Infrastructure being like roads and that type of thing, not stormwater. It does not allow for an increase in density, so they have to stick to the density in the comp plan. It does not allow for an increase in pervious surface or impacts to wetlands or anything else that is required by the comprehensive plan or the state. Development orders will still be reviewed, and requirements for stormwater floodplain management, hurricane evacuation, impacts to the roadway network are still required, some of which will take place at the development order application stage and some at the application for building permit stage. The development must keep to within the maximum density allowances imposed by the state. This is something that you might not all be aware of. DCA, now Florida Commerce, when they applied to change the land use to what it is now, mixed use and commercial, from what it was prior, which was Research Park, via Ordinance 1031, the state restricted the number of units they could have in that mixed use and commercial land use districts. So, the development has to keep to within those maximum density allowances in accordance with Ordinance 1031 for the mixed use and commercial future land use designated areas, for the number of allowable residential dwelling units, amount of square footage for offices and commercial, and the acres of civic space and number of hotel rooms. Industrial future land use designations currently allow for trade and service activities, business and professional offices, commercial and multifamily residential uses. These are allowed now. I didn't know if you were all aware of that, but currently industrial does allow for those things to be constructed in industrial land use. This here is very hard to see, but this is what is in your packet. This is the aerial that shows you the various parcels and the number of acres. This shows you the Ordinance 1031 area. So where the arrow is pointing to, mixed use and commercial, that is the area there. That whole big parcel is the area that is restricted by 1031. They are not allowed to go over those densities, and those densities are less than are in the ULDC. So they're not even allowed to go for the full density that's allowed in the ULDC or in the comp plan. They have to keep to these. And this shows you the future land use areas. So the purple and the red kind of hash areas are the areas that are mixed use and commercial. Thank you. And we do have the representative, the city's reviewer for traffic from Kimberly Horn, Vinny, he is here. If you have any of those traffic questions, he is here to answer those for you.
All right, thank you. We do have an attesting party representing Mr. Joe Tannenhill, Attorney Robert Volpe. Yes, yeah, an affected party.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did submit a request to be recognized as an affected party. We can present after the applicant if that would be the preference of the commission. The presentation will be on your future land use map, your future land use categories in the comprehensive plan, but particularly the discussion that was had earlier at the workshop about compatibility and buffers. And I believe that you all understand the issue. So if you don't mind, if we could go after the applicant as far as in that order, if that would be, I think it would be preferable to see what the application is and then our one request for a condition to that application.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Of course, we had a workshop on this earlier. I guess one question, I know Amanda showed us a map. I know earlier, Commissioner Warwick, you had a question about the industrial parcels that were being used based on that. And it seemed like that map was a little bit different than what you might have been asking earlier or what was clarified earlier.
So I don't know if we can go back to that one map.
Harold, can we have that presentation back, please?
Got like the numbers on it.
Can we have my one, please?
Yeah, if you go back, that one there.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's the part on the, well, audiences are left, are right.
That one,
On the left
number
there
one.
is kind of what I'm worried about. Right.
Yeah, Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say this, I had this up there to show you the ordinance 1031 area, which is this area here, but that is industrial, I believe. So you had a question about that industrial parcel?
As I stated before, my concern is the encroaching on the industrial area, the businesses in there. That's what I'm worried about. You have that part there.
Yeah, they own industrial land also, so.
Yeah, that was the question earlier, was how would the industrial land be developed? Like we see how we're developing 10, for this overlay, but the question was, would the development of that industrial land encroach upon the industrial parties that are already there?
Right, I'll let the developer answer that because that's not,
Commissioners, we've not planned that site yet. Obviously, once we do plan the site, we'll have to submit a development order, and that development order will spell out in feet and inches exactly where things are going to be located and so forth. I don't think that our uses are incompatible. I think there's an issue that we have to work out with Merrick, which I think we've got two willing parties that want to work that out. And I think we'll come to a solution tonight, and we can put that to bed and hopefully move forward mutually successfully. But on that site, we have not done the planning on that site.
So I guess my question is, if this gets approved tonight, would that include the property on the left also or not?
It would include all our property that's on that map.
Okay.
But it would not restrict on that industrial property. It would not encroach in any way outside of, it wouldn't create a situation where it would encroach on any of the surrounding properties. Yeah. I think if we solve the riddle with the buffer, I think it solves it for that as well as for all of them.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any additional questions for the applicant? All right.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is just off the top of my head. Is there a timeline other than 30 years?
Hope it's not going to be 30 years.
I won't be around to see that.
Well, first of all, can I make a correction too? We found there's a typo in the on one of the maps there. It's listed as HDR outside the front gate and 20 feet. Should be 30 feet and LDR. So it is listed correctly on another map, but it's just I don't know how it happened. But we'll correct that before we submit. The second thing in regards to your question, obviously this process sets getting the Marina Island Overlay District approved, God willing, tonight. The next step would be for us to draft the development order, this engineering, and do all the calculations and all that stuff, submit that to city staff. City staff would then come back to us. I would suspect it'll take a little bit of time because it is a big phase. And then we would go through the process like anybody else to submit the development order to the commission, the reading, and have plenty of public engagement and so forth on that. But we want to move. We're ready. We're ready. Yeah.
Estimated
So
phase one.
If we're approved tonight, God willing, and we were to go and submit our, realistically, it would take us about 3 months to put together the development order. And then I think the city would probably have about the same amount of time to approve it. Bidding, let's say about 8 months, we could start working out there. That would be on the inside. Could be 12 months. But hopefully things move smoothly.
The reason I'm asking is apparently we gave permission, and Mr. Walker probably remembers this, and that development still has not fulfilled their promise to us. And so that's kind of made me think, they promised to do something, and we gave them the permission, and they're procrastinating because we didn't set a timeline.
With us?
No. I'm saying.
Another development, I see.
That created my worry about a timeline for y'all.
Well, we were anxious to start moving dirt because we don't make any money until we do that. So, but that, as I mentioned before, it's not the only reason why we're doing it. We think it's a great vision. We think it's going to be a great development. We think people will come back in 2 or 3 years or 5 years, and they're going to love it. It's going to add to Lynn Haven, not detract from it.
One question I'd never thought of until I was looking at this. I know there's an area that FSU owns on the old Field Depot. Are they going to be able to have, I think there's something that addresses that there's going to be an access point for them. Have
They have an easement in place, and we give them access to our main road.
Right. So there's going to be no conflict with them?
No.
Okay, thanks.
We signed all that stuff before we even took down the property.
Okay, thank you.
With the taking down of the property.
All right, is there a presentation at this time? All right.
I'm going to try and keep it to 10 minutes. So I'm going to go pretty quickly, and then I can answer your questions, because most of this you've seen before, but I'm assuming there are some community members that haven't. So let me see if I can. Okay, so this is the map you were referring to before, with the number of dwelling units, the acreage, and we are staying within what the comprehensive plan allows, as Amanda stated. You've heard the presentation on this before, 4 big ideas, and I'm going to touch on them very briefly because the amendments to the design code are done to encourage this kind of development. And very often, in many places where we work, the comprehensive plans say everything right, and then the zoning doesn't allow it. So we've worked to modify what we felt, or to make suggestions as to what could be tweaked to allow this to happen. So it's a boating community first and foremost. We hope with a very vibrant waterfront center. And the images you see are from projects we've done. So we are, like Andy said, I'm very committed to, if DPC's name stays on a plan like this, to see it through, developed properly. So activating the waterfront is a big part of this, as part of the marina. And we imagine mixed-use buildings with retail and restaurants on the ground floor and residential above, and a wide promenade that's activated with many different kinds of activities, as you can see here. But the water is woven through the site as well. So there's of course there's the big waterfront, but there are also canals, and the canals take shape very differently, and some of them are fronted by residential buildings, and some of them are fronted by residential buildings. So in this case, this is commercial. Yeah, sorry. In this case, this is an example of where, as you can see with the yellow box around, it could be a water feature that's actually quite narrow, but that traverses the site in a way with commercial buildings facing it on both sides. There are also more private areas with the residential, with canals, with the canal and the water circulating all the way around, that is just of a quieter nature, and a place where the residential can be a little bit away from all the noise and the activity that the center will bring along. And this was just one of the early renderings that was done for the project. The idea of it being inclusive is important. And inclusive, why is it inclusive? We like to say it has a robust civic infrastructure. And what we mean by that is that there's a lot of open space and different types of open space. It's not only the amount of open space that's provided here, but it's the way in which it's programmed. It has to be usable, it has to be visible, and it has to be programmable. So this is a drawing that shows you the different kinds of open spaces that exist here, but we see opportunities for yoga on a green. We see opportunities for families to gather and have activities. Of course, playgrounds, and then even places to just go and sit and think in a place that's actually quiet and can bring people a little bit of peace in the way it's landscaped and designed. And then, of course, there are some residential streets as well that are on these pedestrian greens, and they're very popular wherever we go because there's places that are safe for kids and elderly people to sort of come out and gather. And it's a way to connect you to the water. So everybody, we're bringing the water views deep into the site. We're not blocking the views by running the streets really perpendicular to the waterfront. So everybody, when they're walking in that direction, they know they're going to hit the water at some point. So it's a way to orient folks as well to the water. And other green courts as well. As you can see here, once you leave the bridge, as you're coming in, single-family homes fronting a shared green. So our research shows us that people are willing to trade a smaller home and no backyard for a shared green. And that's especially true for elderly folks who don't want a backyard to take care of. We're staying within the impervious area, of course, since we're not allowed to exceed it. This begins to show you what's pervious, what's partially pervious, and what is impervious. And ways in which we're integrating civic buildings as well. If you saw on the master plan, you'll see it in other plans, there are red buildings, and those red buildings are intended to indicate community amenities, whether it's a clubhouse, whether it's a beach club, whether it's a little pavilion on the waterfront, or whether it's a pool. And here's another view of that from the waterfront. Now, what creates a resilient community? This is a 20 to 30-year project, so it really does need to have the mix of uses and building types that can appeal to as wide an audience as possible and the widest market as possible. So this is a drawing that shows the different building types. There is one, and I apologize, we put in the wrong drawing, but one mistake here, and that is that the LDR on the small out parcel does not allow townhouses. So that will come out right here, as you can see right there. We drew townhouses surrounded by single family. It doesn't allow it, so we won't be showing it. And then you can see the mix of building types. There's single family, there's small multifamily, there's walk-ups, there's the mixed use, there's different size townhouses as well. And these are townhouses that are rear loaded. I'll speak about that when I show you the parking. They're not the front loaded townhouses, which are typically not very pedestrian friendly, which is why most people oppose townhouses in their own neighborhoods, because they feel it's just an inferior building type. But townhouses can be really beautiful when they're attached to a town where people can walk to. Anyway, so these are the different building types. And as you can see, a lot of thought has gone into how those building types are laid out. The idea of the mixed-use buildings is that there are little courtyards where shops can spill out, and then there's pedestrian circulation that happens through it. I'll show that to you when we get to the streets. So that there's a circulation that happens on the street, but there's a whole pedestrian network that connects these buildings to each other, and a variety of building types as well. So the apartment villas or the walk-ups, the idea of these is that they're large, they're 2 or 3 story multifamily buildings with 2 units on either side, that get windows in on all 3 sides or can let light in on all 3 sides, and they just look like a very large mansion or a very large villa, but they're actually well integrated into the fabric of the community because they're not much larger, and the parking is in the back, of course, or off-site. Townhouses, live works, that's the idea of buildings close to the sidewalk with either commercial on the ground floor or residential above, or a townhouse with a stoop where the windows are raised so there is some privacy, and the parking again is in the back. That's super important for these types. The intimate cottage courts, I've shown those to you. They can be, they don't have to be very wide. This one is less than 30 feet wide, and a very fun place to gather and be. And an idea that the buildings have to have a street presence. Every building is going to be designed in a way that makes it pedestrian friendly. So the cars will be hidden. It shows some vibrancy and activity at the level of the street. And when there's not a car in the front yard, all of a sudden you can get beautiful gardens and beautiful streets. And then the walkability. And, we can't be sustainable if we're not walkable. That's a key component of the work we do. So what does it mean to be walkable? It means that streets have to be comfortable, they have to be shaded, they have to be safe, and they have to link destinations to each other. So a big part of making a walkable community is hiding the parking. And the parking here is hidden by either putting it in the back of the lots, or lined by buildings in the front, which is the blues that you see there. There's a big central parking garage that's 3 decks that provides nearly 1,400 parking spaces that is also lined by buildings. And then there's the raised platform in front of the water, which is where the parking will be sort of semi-buried in there, and then the housing and the mixed-use buildings raised above it.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
What's the one level below ground parking mean?
It means that the ones that you see with the purple line around them, that means that the buildings will be raised off the ground a little bit. And so the parking is going to be maybe 3 feet down, 4 feet down, we're not quite sure, but you're driving down and the platform is raised above ground so you don't see it.
Okay.
So that we can reach the flood elevation that's required to avoid flooding.
Thank you.
And then this is the pedestrian and the vehicular network. So the black streets you see are the vehicular network. They're going to have on-street parking. And as you heard Andy say before, there's a tremendous amount of on-street parking once you begin to count all of it. And parked cars also make people feel more comfortable when they're on a sidewalk, because you're not walking on a sidewalk right next to a car whizzing by you. But as you can see as well, there's a very sort of robust pedestrian network that weaves you in and out through the site as well, and that's an important component for us. And we have tagged each different street type to its land use. So there's a great variety of street types based on whether they are along a single-family street, whether they're along a multifamily street, whether they're along a street that has commercial uses, or whether they're along the main boulevard. And the package includes examples of what those streets look like. And, we've worked to identify how wide the parking is, how wide the sidewalk is, where the trees should go, how wide the travel lanes are, all of that, to ensure that the public realm reinforces the private realm as well. So, for example, in the commercial area, the sidewalk's going to be wider, the trees will be in planters, right? Whereas in the residential areas, for example, you may have a green verge, the sidewalk may be narrow, but you have a bigger landscaped area. So that when you see different building types, there's also an expectation that the landscaping and the public realm is designed somewhat differently. The street has to feel residential in a residential area, and the streets have to feel commercial in a commercial area. So every one of these streets is tagged. So when you see NS, that means the neighborhood street. 84 feet is the public right-of-way, and 34 feet is the width of the pavement. And we want to see the pavement as narrow as possible, ensuring that it meets all the fire inspectors' requirements for the fire trucks, of course. And of course, and then the other part is, how do you move from vision to implementation? A lot of that is the code and, the standards that have been put in there. This is the phasing plan. Sorry, I thought I had one more slide. This begins to show you the phasing is going to move from west to east. And you can see the phase 3 is the last phase, which is that little out parcel that's surrounded by the industrial buildings. But we'll begin with the single family and then move our way to the single family on both sides, and move into the site, into the second phase. And this is where Andy was saying there is a mistake here. The MU actually extends where it says LDR all the way to the LDR, and we'll fix that and submit it again. And where it says HDR, it should be LDR. So I'm not sure how that happened, but we will fix it. But we're not changing the lines of the flue. All right, it's staying the way it is. And this is, I think, is one of my last slides. It's essentially showing the standards and the dimensional requirements for the different land uses. The setbacks, of course, a big part of it, the lot coverage, the FAR is not changing, the density is not changing, what uses were recommended to be removed because we don't anticipate those uses being there, of course, and then what uses were added. We did that for each one of those communities, of those land uses. Thank you. Happy to answer questions.
All right. Are there any questions from the commission?
I wanted to point out one thing because one of the residents brought up about children and running out into the streets. The way the site is developed, where the house is around the greens, really wonderful thing to have either foot traffic or pedestrian streets and these central greens, because I know when my children go outside, my youngest is 8, I'm always worried, is she running out in the street or something like that? So I think we've been very sensitive about trying to create family-oriented communities.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Robert Volpe, 119 South Monroe Street, Tallahassee. I represent Merrick Industries and also Little Oyster Bay Point LLC, which owns the property of the northwest of Marina Island Overlay District, to the west and actually to the north of, as you mentioned, Commissioner Warwick, the later phase, the future phase that is the industrial land. And I want to start off by saying that my client supports this project and thinks this is a good project for the city of Lynn Haven. Our main concern, you'll hear me say this word several times, is compatibility. Compatibility is required by Florida statutes, compatibility between adjacent uses. It's in section 163-3202 of Florida statutes. That's a requirement for your comprehensive plan and for your land development code and for all development in the state of Florida. Your comprehensive plan requires compatibility between adjacent uses, and you have addressed that in your land development code through your buffer standards. Buffers are the primary tool for ensuring that compatibility, uses can be compatible with each other, adjacent uses. So looking at the Marina Island overlay and the existing industrial park that Merrick is a part of, we believe that a Type D buffer, a 60-foot Type D buffer with a wall, would ensure compatibility between these long-standing industrial uses and the new development, whether it's mixed use with residential and commercial, whether it's townhomes, whether it's single family. All of those uses would be allowed in both the mixed use area and in the future phase industrial area. In this Marina Island overlay, it would allow single family in that area. A 60-foot Type D buffer with a wall added as a condition to this ordinance would ensure compatibility, and that is based on your land development regulations as it is. I do, if you would indulge me, I would like to ask Mr. Tannehill to come up and just explain quickly about his operations. And then Mr. Darren Taylor is a planner, AICP certified planner, who will testify as to the compatibility requirements. Thank you.
I have a quick handout. Joe Tannehill, 10 Arthur Drive, Lynn Haven.
If you'll give those to the city attorney.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am an industrial user. My father built the existing site there for his boss back in 1977. I have employees who were at work today who have over 47 years of service at this site at 10 Arthur Drive. We make industrial weighing machines. We make them out of steel. And thank you for all of you who have come out to see what we do. We are an industrial site. We use in Arthur Drive for wide loads, industrial loads, a lot of trucks. We have worked 3 shifts, which is 24 hours a day in the past. We would like to have that option in the future. We have about 150 employees. We've never had a complaint from a neighbor. We'd like to keep it that way. Usually, good fences make good neighbors. In this case, we need more, because you can see on the back of the handout how close the lots are for residential homes, single-family residential homes, to our fence. And that's why we're asking for a solution, a buffer that's already in your Unified Land Development Code. We're just asking for the max of 60 feet. We're asking for a fence that's solid, and we're asking for notice to prospective buyers that they know what they're buying, which is you're buying up against industrial property. We have welders who are blacksmiths. They pound steel to shape our machines. It can be really monotonous to hear. It can be really loud, even when it's within the city of Lynn Haven noise ordinance of 75 decibels. Going 20 feet, you're still going to hear it very loudly. I don't want to create problems. When all this is developed so beautifully, I'm going to be the one left getting the phone calls with complaints. Unless you buy something next to my fence, nobody else will complain. So this is my chance to ask you for your support to let us continue to do what we do in Lynn Haven with 150 jobs, hopefully more in the future, and let us grow and not have angry neighbors hating that we're next to them. Because you don't see industrial plants in neighborhoods for a reason. This is a situation where we're going to share a common boundary. We're asking for a 60-foot buffer, a solid fence, and again, notice to prospective buyers that they're buying up against an active industrial plant. Thank you.
Commissioners, Darren Taylor with Holtzman Vogel, Planning Director. I'll be very brief in my comments. We certainly appreciate the comments that we heard in the workshop about the willingness and the importance of Merrick for this community. And really, when you consider the industrial park, and Commissioner, as you were mentioned, when you're looking at the long-term viability, which is really what we were hearing from you, is that if you think about a military base or you think about an airport, the big threat that they have is ongoing residential coming on their border. It's the same thing with an industrial park. And that's the fact because when you have residential, what's your expectation? When you go home tonight, you want it to be quiet. You don't want to hear noise. And the industrial activities that are occurring there, as the client just mentioned, having the ability to have 24-hour operations occurring with residential, single-family, multifamily abutting the property, what ends up happening typically is the fact that once this is developed, you're going to begin to hear the complaints. You're going to begin to hear the issues where the industrial user will begin to have the pressure of wondering, am I still welcome in this area? And so that's why it's so important to be able to provide that protection, that ongoing viability. And when we were looking at the solution, one of the issues with the type D buffer, and which is the standard, as Mr. Volpe mentioned, the requirement for compatibility, it is in the statute, it is in the comprehensive plan, it is implemented within your land development code and in the table. As far as the appropriate standard, and if we look at the standard that's established in your code, there's a little bit of an inconsistency within the standard. This is very unusual. And if typically when you consider the proposed use and the existing use, the standard would be the same, where if you have commercial next to residential, if both require the type B or type C buffer. Your code's a little different. It says that if industrial is in place and I'm proposing a mixed-use development, I only have to do a type C. However, if I'm a mixed use and I'm proposing industrial, I have to do a type D. Now, I'm not sure why you would have that difference. So the only reason I can think of would be from a planning standpoint, would be mixed use allows you to propose a transitional use like commercial or office, which could have been done on the border, but that's not what we have here. We have single family, residential, multifamily. In fact, when you do typically have that, across the board in your code, a type D is proposed. And finally, your code includes when you do have a situation of an inconsistency when you're looking at a standard, your code compels you to apply the most stringent standard, which in this case would be a type D. Commissioners, any questions you might have, be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing us as an affected party. We'll reserve the right to answer any questions in the future after the public comment if that's necessary. And we request the additional conditions to this approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This time we'll have public commentary. Let me go to my list first, and then we'll come to the general audience. Sean Mullins. Is the Mullins still here? Okay. Bruce from White Western Lake. Okay, you're okay? All right. Like he left. Jim Prouder.
Hi, Commissioners. I'd like to thank you for your dedication to public service. I know this isn't a fun job sometimes. I've been following this project for years at this point. I'm familiar with the history of the property before that. I was working with the Air Force as they were getting ready to turn over the property. And I've been looking forward to development there and an opportunity to clean up the bayou. I am very excited about the development, and the developer has been really, I couldn't ask for a better partner as far as keeping us informed on what they're doing and listening to our concerns. So with that said, I really feel like they're going to go out of their way to make sure that this development is a benefit to the city, and I would encourage all of you guys to vote for this as quickly as possible. I just hate to see anything get delayed because I have been literally working on this for years, and I'm not the development, but they're working on the restoration of the bayou for years, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Additional public commentary? Yes. Ms. Walker. And Mr. Walker, did you want to comment also? Okay.
I may be under the wrong impression, but I was led to believe that the industrial park would stay industrial. Am I incorrect? Because on the phase 3, there's residential properties being developed, according to what we just saw a few minutes ago.
What happens is that land use is actually mixed use. So the part that's being residential as of right now is not industrial. It's actually mixed use, which allows for residential.
So we're good with that in the industrial park. Right next to the lighting store, and just before the $7 million property that used to be ACMI, there's going to be a strip of residential properties.
Commissioner Ward.
So
And
the way I understand it, in the industrial use, it actually allows for multifamily units, and which is actually kind of unusual when you look at other cities. Normally, they don't allow that in industrial for land that's coded industrial, but ours does. And until we go through the comprehensive plan and the Unified Land Development Code, that's what it is.
And the second problem is, I don't know whether or not the contamination has been solved, but there is contamination, dirt, and soil on that property. And we were led to believe that would be taken care of. I heard nothing about that tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker.
You know, to answer this, we have a saying where I was born and raised. If you go ahead with this project, I also have a bridge in Brooklyn I could sell you. I discussed the ownership of the title to the property. When it was turned over from the Air Force to the city of Lynn Haven and then turned over, they said in the contract that you will not disturb the ground without permission from the United States Air Force. Certain areas, due to the fact of the contamination that was there. That's in the contract and covenant between the United States Air Force, Lynn Haven, and they passed that on to the developer. Have to address that. They're going to take care of the stormwater, so there will be no stormwater assessment. You won't get that. they'll take care of that. The ownership of the water. State owns the water, the high tide mark. You should know this. You're not going to prevent anybody from coming in, doing like they do in Shell Island, putting an anchor up on the high water mark and backing off and using the beach. That's state property. The water underneath piers and underneath the walkways out belongs to the state. Land underneath those belong to the state. They have to get an agreement with the state. Similar to the marina downtown and the marina at St. Andrews. You have to get an agreement. Similar to us with Bailey Bridge. We don't own the water, and we don't own the land under the bridge. We have a contract with the state. Canals are going to be natural waterways. Are they going to connect to the ditch? Are they going to widen the ditch? That's the questions you've got. You don't have to pass this. You're not in a box on this one. This is not a development order. You don't have to pass this. For example, the houses, buildings on the commercial property and the private property can be 5 stories. That's what stopped them in the first time when they put this plan up. We didn't want to line up the whole bayou with condos. You don't have to pass this. You get the development order, then you have to think about it. So if you don't change the UDLC and the comprehensive plan with the overlays, they have to live what we have to live with here when we develop. We live within the rules. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there additional public commentary? All right, Mr. Scray.
A couple of things that got said since the workshop that I wanted to talk about was one is the 24/7 operations and the banging and the noise. I don't know what the decibels are on the mosquito truck, but that thing wakes me up if I go to bed early, and that thing's not that loud. I would imagine that hearing the hammering and stuff and whatnot will upset people, and I've seen this in other communities that I've lived in where it happens. Residential, they start building residences next to a racetrack, a car racing track that's been there for 35, 40 years. All of a sudden, the track's a problem because, they stop racing at 9 o'clock when the curfew hits, but the residents will go, it's dusty and it's noisy, and all of a sudden the track's closed down. So I don't want to see Merrick closed down because of a noise. Also on the industrial part there, that's not planned yet. I think the fact that he said that they don't have a plan yet is a great opportunity for us to have some goodwill in this plan and say, let's exclude that piece out of this overlay because it was referenced earlier. We can always bring it back and edit the overlay and include it later when they have a plan. So I think that's a good way where let's wait and see what the plan is. We have a non-binding referendum for zoning on the ballot tomorrow night. Have you all thought about how zoning could affect this in the future? That's something to think about too. So yeah, I would just say maybe if you can exclude that industrial portion from this overlay for now and revisit it in the future when they have a better idea of what they want to put there. And then also, I'm sure it's going to cost some lost revenue for the project, but the 60-foot buffer seems like it's going to prevent, or at least give the best opportunity to prevent problems like what I talked about earlier, with the example of a racetrack. Obviously they're not as loud as a racetrack, but it's the same concept. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public commentary? Yes, sir. And then we'll come to you, sir, with the nice cowboy hat on there.
Good evening. Randy Whitehead, 1005 West 12th Street in Lynn Haven. Appreciate y'all's willingness over the years listening and concerns and continue to push forward to figure out how we make this for everybody. I live on the bayou, very looking forward to it being cleaned up and seeing this great opportunity come to
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you again for listening to me. My name's Jack. I'm Jack in the black hat, by the way. Anyway,
Black Jack, all right.
I used to work at Merrick Industries. I worked there for 4 years. And yeah, they do a lot of good work. I know that a lot of their previous was around coal-fired plants, which have been shut down, but the recent administration is bringing it back up full life. So I expect their business will expand greatly. Being a resident of Lynn Haven and driving to and from the plant, it wasn't that far. I live over near Simply Seafood, and driving there was no problem. But you add a huge group of buildings and community, a large density project like this, and that's going to make transit times and everything else. And you're going to have to widen roads, and you're going to have to take up people's property to do that. I don't think the existing structure from Highway 77 back to that property will allow you, without having to do some taking away of property, to allow the widening of the streets. So just want to make sure you understand what you're asking for when you approve this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional commentary? Yes, sir.
Commissioners, I'd just like to speak to some of the comments because there was some, I think, a little bit of misinformation floating around, and I think it's good to clear the air there. First, I'll just mention the gentleman just came up. The project is actually lower density than the area surrounding it. So generally, most of that property is 20 units per acre, which would be like 3,600 residents. We're maybe half of that at full capacity, full build out. And in regards to just an understanding here on the issue with the buffer, it's a very good issue, and I applaud Mr. Tannehill for taking the initiative to look, before uses foresight to see that could be an issue, and we certainly don't want it to be an issue either, because our buyers are not going to be happy if they're hearing beep, 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 a forklift backing up or something like that. However, there is a misconception here, and that is that 60 feet is any different than 20 feet or 10 feet if you don't have something in that space. You have to break the sound up. So the way the code is written today, not our code, but the city's code today, it states that between a mixed use and an industrial property, it requires a C buffer. Now, we'll get into C and D and so forth, but I just want to point out that, and I don't know how I can do this, but I can show it to the commissioners.
It's okay.
If you look on page 76, anybody can look up the PDF is downloadable from the city's website. But you can see there's actually 4 different variants of a C buffer, the smallest being 20 feet with a high density of vegetation, trees, shrubs, and medium-sized plant trees, going up to a 35-foot buffer. The same thing on type D, where it states that there's a 60-foot buffer down to a 30-foot buffer. So there's actually, if we go to a type D, it doesn't mean that we would have to do a 60-foot buffer. Our concern is, let me just bring up one other point too. The map is not a development order. This is a general idea of what's going to be where. When we bring the development order up, that's going to be what's going to set the standard. based on, the map, there's several things that we look at here now today, and we'd say, well, we probably won't do that. We'll probably just make that a green in there where there's little tiny houses surrounded by big houses and so forth on the border with Mr. Tannehill. So I would suggest that whether we do a type D or a type C, the problem being with type D is you're making a special exception from everywhere else in Lynn Haven for Marina Island. In other words, you're saying our standard has to be more difficult to achieve than every other place in Lynn Haven. We're trying to be good stewards. We're doing a very expensive causeway cut and things like that. So we're asking for the mercy of the commission and the public that let's deal with this in the development order stage, or if we go into type D, that it isn't set to a 60-foot, because first of all, it's not acceptable, the tree density. We want more tree density in that space. Even though it's more expensive to do, it does deaden the sound more, and it also aesthetically will look a lot better having a nice, beautiful green backdrop there. Same thing whether we use a berm or a sound delineating wall or anything like that. We would like to deal with that with engineers and not sort of on the fly and with statements that, Mr. Tannehill's attorney said that it requires a 60-foot. It does not require a 60-foot. Type D can be as little as 30 feet. So we think that it would make more sense to have maybe a sound engineer that would come in and give us what we need to put across there to keep the sound down. We don't want it. He doesn't want it. We don't want our customers to be unhappy. There's one unhappy, and this is the very first phase. This is one of the first things that we're doing. So if our clients there are unhappy, they're going to tell one unhappy client means everybody knows about it. 100 happy clients, nobody hears about it, and that's just the nature of business. So I think our interests are aligned, and that's my point, is that I was going to say Mr. Tannehill's interests and our interests are aligned. I would like to see it done in a more educated manner than just to say, okay, well, we're going to do 60 feet because 60 feet is a bigger number than 30 feet, when the 30-foot or the 20-foot might offer better sound protection. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that the code is 75 decibels. I'm not saying that that's, going to be the case all the time at Mr. Tannehill's factory, but 75 decibels is a toilet flushing. It's not super loud. It's not, and I've walked that site 100 times, and I've walked his fence line 100 times, and I've never heard anything over there. I mean, occasionally I've heard a beep from a vehicle backing up and so forth. It's definitely an issue, and I'm very appreciative of Mr. Tannehill bringing that to our attention, because, in fact, it's important. One last point. In regards to the environmental issue that the gentleman over here brought up. So the site has been cleared by FDEP, by the EPA, and by everyone else. There's a small section that has a slightly higher arsenic level, which arsenic is a naturally occurring material, that says we need to put 2 feet of dirt on it. So we understand that, and that's on the deed. So we're not impervious, but it has been. I would say that the United States government spent a lot of money testing and cleaning that site for years before they handed it over to us. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Bell. So earlier you mentioned that you wanted us to stay within the ULDC and not give you any more stringent qualifications for your overlay, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, if that's the case, why did you bring us an overlay? Because you're asking for exceptions.
No, the overlay is setting, the Marina Island Overlay District, Mr. Mayor, is setting the ethos of the development.
Correct, but
from a design standpoint.
But you're asking for things in here that are not in our ULDC. Am I correct about that, Amanda? Are there things that are here that are not in our ULDC?
But it is.
Which we're making exceptions for.
It is within the ULDC to set up a overlay district.
I understand that, but you stated that you didn't want us to do anything to you that was not in the ULDC, but you're asking us for things that are not within the ULDC for your overlay, which is exceptions.
I understand what the mayor is saying, but I also see in the...
It's just a simple question. Are you asking for, do you just want us to go back to the ULDC and say, hey, let's just do Marina Island versus the ULDC, or do you want us to look at the overlay and make adjustments as needed to the overlay?
We were proposing to go back to the overlay, to the ULDC standard, because our standard that we proposed in our Marina Island overlay district is not to the ULDC. It uses a 20-foot buffer, and it doesn't give any of the language about the landscaping and things like that. Although we would do that, it's not in there. So what we suggested as a means of trying to come to a compromise is to use the ULDC standard and to approve with that exception. So I apologize if I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, I was a little confused, so.
No worries.
All right, thank you for the clarity.
No problem.
I don't think there's any questions about traffic right now.
Questions about traffic?
Does anybody have any questions about traffic? We'll talk about traffic when we build a road. But thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you. Right now, we're talking about buffers and decibels and those kind of things. All right, Commission, so we've heard a lot. We've talked a lot. And I know you've thought a lot. I think from what I heard in our workshop earlier is that some of us wanted to update the language of buffers to coincide with what was presented to us by Merrick. From what I heard earlier, is that what I heard from the commission, is to update the language to what we received from Merrick in regards to the buffers, the 60 feet with the wall and the language of the MOID, so that they won't be held liable for that. Okay. Are there any other concerns in regards to the overlay beyond the buffers?
Just what I brought up about the industrial district and that other phase, they don't know what they're going to do with.
Okay. Did you want to leave that in there or take that out?
Yeah, I'd take it out.
Okay. All right. So Commissioner Ward wants to take out the industrial right now from the overlay. Are there any objections to that? All right. Anything else in the overlay that needs to be addressed? All right. So is there a motion to? No, sir. Thank you. We're going to make a motion and then you can speak then. But yeah, well, we might make a motion. I don't know. So is there a motion to update the language of the buffers to what was presented to us by Merrick Industries, as well as remove the industrial portion from the overlay at this time?
And I'm just talking about the future phase one.
Yes.
Right. Yep. I'm good with that.
All right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Warwick. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Vandergrift. Is there any additional public commentary? Any additional public commentary? Mr. Bell, anything?
I was just going to say that in that we do have industrial language in there, even though it's not showing a picture. The picture is only for reference. So that's.
All right, thank you. All right, any additional public commentary? All right. Yes, sir.
Just a quick clarification. I live on a house, 5th and Michigan Avenue. My property is approximately 1/3 of an acre. if you count my neighbor to my right side and behind me and over to the right side behind me, that's a total of 4 houses in an acre of land. So I don't know where this gentleman's getting that the density is up as 20 or 30 units per acre. I think that's ridiculous. That to me is high density. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnell,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. Public hearing closes at 7:47 PM. And we're going to take a 5-minute recess and be back at 7:52. Calling our meeting back to order, picking up with agenda item number 20, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2025 amending policy number 96EX5 as adopted by the City Commission April 9, 1996. City Manager, if you would read this resolution by title, please.
Yes. Resolution number 2025-0454, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the city's policy for the appointment of board members and providing an effective date. Mayor, this is the policy that the commission asked us to bring back to them with some updates and making very explicit how we advertise, and pointing to the city commission would appoint board members. And I think those were really the highlights of the updates. And city attorney can make any other remarks.
Anything from you, City Attorney? Okay, awesome. Thank you all for working on this and getting this back to us. Commission, are there any questions or amendments you would like to make to this proposed?
I have one. This is more of a, I think it may be a typo, or I'm just misreading it. On page 120, number 6A, at the very end of the sentence, it says, City Commission on either an informal, hard to say this 5 times fast. City Commission on either informal or informal basis. I think that probably is supposed to say formal or informal. Okay. Other than that, I guess if by reading this, I just want to make sure that as an overview, basically the way that it reads is for advisory boards where there's 5 members, each member of the commission will appoint one. And then for advisory boards that are larger than 5, that's my alarm to take my trash out.
Don't forget.
Yep. So where there's boards with 5 members, we'd each appoint one, and then boards with more than 5 members, then we would all have a consensus. Is that how I'm reading it properly? Okay.
All right, Commissioner Ward.
The only question I had was, do we want to list the boards on here, or is there something that already lists all our boards?
I know we have them listed in the charter. Yeah.
That doesn't have all our boards, does it?
Yeah, they're probably not, you're right, they're not all in the charter. We have, I guess, the initial board. So, yes, if we could, I guess, add a page.
Just with all the boards on there, that's about it. Other than that, I'm good with it.
So do a question for the attorney, because there are some boards that are maybe addressed in the charter. So what about those boards that are addressed there, or because a lot of them are done by resolution, so you just want to add the ones that are in the charter as well as these here? Okay.
All right. Commissioner Vandergriff, anything for you? Commissioner Perno? All right. Is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Peebles. Any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
I have one question. So the 2 that are up after this, because he just said each person appoints somebody. So what 2 commission seats are appointing the 2 vacancies tonight?
That would be on the board of 5.
So a board of 5, each of you gets a board member to appoint. So who's appointing the 2 tonight? What seat number do those seats belong to?
You usually start in seat 1 and then you go around.
So who originally appointed those people? Because wouldn't that seat number retain that spot?
Well, originally they weren't.
Correct.
They weren't appointed per the procedure?
Correct. They applied.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they applied, and then they went by the previous procedure that we were using, which is just to come to us, and then we all approved it previously.
So tonight, it would be, for the first seat, it would be whoever seat 1 suggests, and then you guys would decide on a consensus. And then seat 2, is that correct?
Seat 1 has already been decided by consensus prior to this. Y'all just asked that it be removed, but we had already decided that that person would be grandfathered in under the old rule.
So you guys would just be deciding if you agree with that consensus formally, and then seat 2 would choose the person for the next seat. And then you would again decide if you guys agree as a consensus with that person. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Work,
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. All right. Agenda item number 21A, and this is in regards to the appointment to the Board of Adjustments. Are there any questions or concerns about that one?
So the question I have is on fiscal impact. It says $12.1 million since the last budget amendment was passed.
Commissioner Ward, we're going to do, great point. We're
I'm
going to do the appointments first. So we're going to do. So
I'm out of order, sorry.
No, you're fine. So what we're going to do, we're going to do 21A for the first appointment, 21B for the second appointment, and then this would be 21C so that we can keep the numbering for the minutes. But yeah, so just rewind that back and do that again when we get back to it. So 21A, that is in regards to the appointment for the board. Are there any questions or concerns about that appointment?
So A would be Barnes, right, based on?
Right.
Because we basically kind of already talked about this in a previous meeting, just so it's on the record, that in a previous meeting, we talked about this, that because Barnes had put the application in previous to this, us discussing this ordinance, the way that it had done in the past, it was not necessarily written, but it was implied that it was first in, first out, basically. And so we thought it was only fair that Barnes has that spot. So I just wanted to put that out there on record. That's why that is happening that way.
All right. Is there a motion for Miranda Barnes to be appointed to the city's Board of Adjustment?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Motion and second. Comments from the public? City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift, Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. And then now moving on to 21A, which is the approval to appoint one new member of the city's Board of Adjustment. And so that'll be seat 2. Yeah, but this is Commissioner Vandegrift's last commission meeting probably, though. So Commissioner Vandegrift, would you like to appoint that person to the Board of Adjustment? Or make the
Go to page 15, I think it is.
Page 15?
Yes, ma'am. It's more toward the top because we moved them.
Yep.
I mean, since this is a new order, new resolution and everything, I mean, just.
They get walkout music.
Yes, ma'am. You need to.
I'll find it.
I think for future, we're going to have to assign like every board member a number in order to alleviate this in the future.
And walkout music.
I'll tell you in just a minute who it is. I just have to find it.
No problem.
With Jeopardy.
All right, so while she's looking for it, I just kind of wanted to point out to anyone in the future that wants to apply, this procedure we just approved is if you put your application in, it's in our system for 2 years. So if you're not selected tonight, please know that we want you. I reached out to all 5 people, all 5 excellent candidates. Since I've been up here, we have not had 5 people. I don't even think we've had more than 2. So thank you for applying. If you're not selected, please know that we're very appreciative of you, and you probably will get contacted in the future.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to piggyback on what Commissioner Peebles just said. Know that all these applications are date stamped. So I mean, we can prioritize, if they're all willing again, and we know who put their application in first, so to speak. I mean, because honestly, any one of the 5 is a good enough candidate if they want that they want to do it. So,
Commissioner Vandegrift, you have any recommendations?
I recommend Jeremy Wood.
All right, so we have Jeremy Wood being recommended to City Boards of Adjustment. All right, so there's a motion for that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any comments from the public? City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Vandegrift? Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Commissioner Prano?
yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Now to 21C, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2025, amending the fiscal year 24-25 mid-year budget. City Manager, if you would read resolution by title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the final budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 and providing an effective date.
Good evening. As was mentioned a moment ago, this adjustment does include a $12.1 million increase to the budget that you approved in December when I came to you then. There are just a few factors. One is $4,400,000 of purchase orders that were not used in fiscal 24 that are rolling to 25. Typically, I bring that to you in January. I did not do that this year. So it's part of the budget that you're seeing in front of you now. We also have $500,000 in the sewer department for our new screw press, and that's to be paid for by impact fees. The stormwater budget is taking the largest increase, and that includes the West 10th Street Infrastructure Improvement Project that's being funded by CDBG, and it's required that we include $5.2 million of expenditures and a corresponding $5.2 million of revenues. It's budget neutral. And then the last is $4.3 million in debt service that you approved in December when we paid off the 17th Street ditch note. That was not included in the budget that I sent you because you approved it after the budget. So that makes up the $12 million difference. Questions?
Got one. Could you explain it to me like I'm 5 about the CDBG grant and how that works for our budget?
Okay, so the CDBG grant, they're going to pay for this West 10th Street Infrastructure Project. Mr. Lightfoot be able to give you better information on that. They're requiring us to finish $5.2 million worth of expenditures before September 30th of 2025. I am booking a receivable, I'm booking a receivable, meaning that they're going to send us back that $5.2 million. We're going to do everything we can in our power to make sure that we get them the documents as quickly as we possibly can, because this is a cash flow issue. So we want to get that money reimbursed back to the city as quickly as we possibly can.
Did I understand correctly so that's a wash, the 2.5?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yes. Increase of revenues and increase of expenditures. So it's budget neutral.
All right, so that one's budget neutral. The $4+ million that we're paying off, that's just us transferring that or paying off that money.
That was taking the ARPA funds, the residual ARPA funds, and transferring it to the stormwater department so that we could pay off the 17th Street note.
Got it.
So
That's been done.
So $9.5 million of the $12.1 million had to do with grant and ARPA funds.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So then the remaining $3 million or $2 or $3 million or so, is that basically increases to different budgets within the departments?
It's less than that. The $500,000 is for the screw press for the sewer department, and then the rest is little things here and there all across the budget. So I can go through the departments if you want me to.
Are there any particular questions about the departments? All right, is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, comments from the public? City manager, recall the vote.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift? Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Quasi judicial public hearing opens at 8:13.
Want me to swear in Amanda? Are there any other witnesses or applicants that need to be sworn?
This is the Ark of the Bay, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. If you stand up, if you might be asked questions.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give tonight is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Thank you. This is an application for a development order for the Ark of the Bay, St. Andrews Bay Centre parking lot. The applicant is the Ark of the Bay, and the owner is the Ark of the Bay. The agent is Richard Funtner, PE from Dewberry Engineering, who is one of the gentlemen who stood up. Parcel number 10872-000-000, and the location is 1804 Carolina Avenue. The property is approximately 3.44 acres. It is public institutional. The project engineer was Chris Short, and also Richard Funtner. The reviewing engineer is Doug Crook from Panhandle Engineering. And the project basically is just additional parking with improved landscaping and supporting infrastructure such as, the stormwater pond. This shows the future land use map. That's the arrow there showing the public institutional parcel. This is the aerial. I have drawn in the corners the areas that will be affected. This one with the stormwater pond and the parking. And this one over here will be additional parking. This is the site plan. And this was the landscape plan. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Amanda or the applicant?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, is there any comments from the public? City manager, recall the vote.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, public hearing closes 8:15 p.m. Or quasi judicial public hearing opens at 8:15 p.m. Application for development order Circle K convenience store with fuel sales, Highway 389.
Amy, do we have to do this again?
Yes, sorry. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Thank you. This is an application for development order from Circle K, convenience store with fuel sales. The applicant's name is 390 Lynn Haven LLC, as is the owner of the property. The agent is Sandy Owens, MDM Services, Inc., who is the lady who stood up. Parcel number 11573-000-010, and the location is the southeast corner of County Road 389 and Highway 390. The property is approximately 2.5 acres. It has a commercial land use map designation. The engineer was Damian D. Leslie, PE from MDM Services, Inc., and the reviewing engineers, Chris Short, PE, and Richard Funtner from Dewberry Engineering. The reviewing traffic engineer was Vinny, who was here earlier, but as it was it's on a state road and a county road, it was the county who told them what needed to happen. So the convenience store will be 5,200 square feet, and there'll be 7 covered gas pump stations, plus parking, driveways, utilities, and landscaping. If you recall, the development order for the stormwater facilities was approved by you all on August 27th of last year. That was for the parent parcel, so it was for this project, and also to accommodate other future development on that parent parcel. And Bay County has issued a right-of-way use permit for the construction of a turn lane on on County Road 389 south of State Road 390 because that is a congested area. So the county told them that they, in order to proceed, they would have to put in a turn lane. This is the location. It's got commercial land use. I think you're all familiar with the property. I had a big load of soil on it for a while. Here it is on the aerial. This is the site plan and the landscape plan. And also there's some renderings of how it will look. It's going to be the same as the one on 77. Yeah. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Says Bay County approved the permit for the turn lane on 390. Would that not come from the state since that's state road?
389, sir. 389.
Oh, it's 389. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I said 390.
Construction of a turn lane on 389.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Motion to approve.
Second. Questions from the public? City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
So we need another gas station?
Across the street from a gas station, that's across the street from a gas station.
Sometimes it's hard to turn left whenever there's a lot of traffic coming down 389 to get to Chevron.
Yes.
Or Exxon. It is difficult sometimes.
Okay.
Never
Yes.
enough ices.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Public hearing closes at 8:19 p.m. Public hearing for the discussion of Marina Island Development Agreement opens at 8:19 p.m. All right, City Attorney.
So Florida statute requires 2 public hearings before entering a development agreement. This is the first of 2 public hearings you'll have on this development agreement. There's no action required of you tonight other than to receive public comment and discuss it to the extent you want to. The content of this development agreement is largely the same. There's a lot of overlap. It does do some different things. However, it sets some timelines. It requires the dedication of a public safety building before the completion of phase 1. There's also a blank that we need to fill in before the conclusion of the second public hearing with regard to the timeline for their construction and dedication of public parking spaces, and in a number that is equivalent to however many parking spaces can be accommodated on the top floor of their parking garage. The parking spaces don't have to go there, but that's just the variable we are using to determine the number of public parking spaces they will provide. We didn't put a timeline on that. So there is a blank that I am requesting the commission pay attention to. It's on page 248 that we do need to fill in before we adopt this development agreement. It does have a term of 30 years. Something I want to point out is the legal description of the property for the overlay district and for this agreement were the same. So since you have revised the land that is subject to the overlay district, I want to at least point out to you that you can keep the originally proposed legal description, which will bind the entitlements on that land, or you can also remove that unprogrammed industrial piece from this development agreement. To revise, to undo it for both the overlay district and the development agreement also will require 2 public hearings. So the procedure is the same. It's up to you whether or not you want to leave it in or not.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions about or concerns, input about this agreement?
Mine was on the stormwater impact fees. I know it says provided that it doesn't connect to the city stormwater, but how do we know that it's not going to impact other areas? And I know it's on the coast, but and I thought I read, maybe I misread it, but is there somewhere in there where it exempts them from paying stormwater assessment fee, or did I misread that?
It definitely exempts them from stormwater impact fees. I don't know that I saw an exemption for the assessment.
All right, additional questions, input? Of course, we're not voting on this tonight, but any other additional questions or input? If so, please provide those to the city manager, especially if it's something that we need Marina Island to respond to. And thank you for responding to those questions that we sent earlier, which allowed the workshop to go a lot quicker. Yeah, I don't have anything to do tonight, so I mean, just hang out, right? Yes, sir. Yeah, you can come up. Yeah.
Development agreement has the buffer language. We would ask that the same buffer language from the overlay district be.
Yep, we'll cover that. Thank you. Any other comments from the public on this agreement? Nothing, Mrs. Gray? I'm sure I'll hear from you before the next meeting. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on to, all right, so closing public hearing at 8:23 p.m. And moving on to number 25, discussion and possible approval to appeal the Board of Adjustment decision by Obsidian ML1 LLC, Cumberland Farms sign variance request. All right, City Attorney.
I will introduce Robert Volpe, who is representing the applicant who requested this appeal.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and I promise after this is the last time you'll have to see me for a little while, but I appreciate your indulgence tonight. This is an appeal from what was really a non-decision by the Board of Adjustments. There's an existing Tom Thumb store, and we have applied for a variance from the sign height standards. Going through this location is going through a conversion from a rebranding from Tom Thumb to Cumberland Farms, which a lot of the stores are going through that rebranding, which is refresh, revamping of the interior, the exterior. And as a part of that, there are two signs on the property. One is 16 foot 9 inches high, one is 15 foot high. We were asking for them to be 14 foot 9 inches and 13 feet, so reducing both of those sign heights by 2 feet and changing the colors and, of course, the logo, not changing the structure of those signs. But the existing signs are legally non-conforming. Your sign code says 10 feet is the max height, but these signs were in existence before then. The reason for the 2 foot reduction is mainly the change in the shape of Tom Thumb has a diamond shape and Cumberland Farms has kind of a curved shape. We were told we needed to go through the variance process for this, and as part of the procedure here, we applied for the variance. It went to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There was a testimony and discussion and a motion to approve. It was a 2-2 vote, so that motion to approve failed. There wasn't a fifth member there that night. So the procedure is to come to you for an appeal. The first appeal here that we have before you is that we're appealing the need for that variance. We don't believe, because this is a reduction in the nonconformity, the case law says that a reduction in the nonconformity, you maintain your legal nonconforming status. And so because we would maintain the legal nonconforming status, you could approve the signs at 14 foot 9 inches and 13 feet with the Cumberland Farms logo. The only thing that's changing is the logo and repainting the structure that's there. And because it's reducing that nonconformity, it does not lose its legal nonconforming status, and you could approve that without a variance. So as I think the city attorney could maybe clarify a little bit, but the first request to you is to approve the signs without the variance because we maintain the legal nonconforming status.
So as a threshold matter, you'll need to determine, is this a modification or not? To change not only the branding, but also the sign structure to match that Cumberland Farms unique shape and branding. Yes, it does reduce the height, but the first question you'll need to answer is this a modification? If you decide it is a modification, you'll continue with the hearing to determine whether a variance is appropriate. If you determine this is not a modification, we're done.
All right, is this a modification? I feel like it's something that's been required by, Cumberland Farms in order for them to have to do this, and not something that
I mean, you are changing it, so I guess it is a modification.
Well, and I apologize.
It's all good.
Second, it's really kind of a legal question, and it does come to you all, but the modification language is defined in your code, and I believe it states that the modification is a change, an expansion. It lists a few other words that to the structure of the sign. What I was referencing to is in the case law, they're related to signs, and I actually have a case that if you would like to see, but the 3M case, if the modification, it doesn't use the word modification, that's the word that is used in your code. But if the change is a reduction in the nonconformity, then it maintains its legal nonconforming status. So even though it might fall under that word change in your code, the legal nonconforming status stays in place, and therefore you could have a sign that is over your sign height limit without a variance. So that is the argument.
Got it. So I guess tonight we just deciding whether or not we want them to have the sign or not. I mean, is this just the nuts and bolts of it?
Ultimately, the decision.
Yeah.
So if you decide you want them to have the sign, there are two ways to get there. One, you decide it's not a modification.
Okay.
Or two, it is a modification, but it meets the criteria for variance.
Okay. Can we do it's a modification that meets the criteria for variance?
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. Because, sorry if I ask a question. So if I understand it, you're using the same pole or whatever it's on, you're just changing the top part of it.
That's correct. And I appreciate the city attorney explaining it better than I can. We do have to go through these two steps for.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Tom Thumb sign better, but I mean, if Cumberland Farms is what you have to do, then that's fine. No, I'm just messing with you, man.
Understood.
Okay, Ms. Vandergrift.
Why did the committee choose it was a 2-2 vote? Why were there two descending?
Because they know that when a variance request comes to them, they have to look through the list of criteria for granting a variance, they know whatever comes before them. They have this list in their packets. They know it's in the ULDC, and so they consider the request against these things. They, I believe, also would have thought it was a modification because the way that we've always read it in the code, it says that you can maintain, if something's non-conforming, you can maintain it, but you cannot modify it, you can't change it. And so that's how we've always applied that. And plus the variance findings have things like special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same land use district. I believe that they probably I can only say probably because I know they look through these things. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ULDC to other lands, buildings or structures in the same land use district. So there's a number of criteria that they go through. So when they spoke no, they didn't specify though. They should have specified and they didn't. But they say no when they feel that it doesn't meet these criteria.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so what's going to take longer? the modification and the going back to variance, going through the whole process again, or just saying the darn things, it's like in kind, and we're changing a name, and it's the same monument sign, right? It's the same cabinet with prices and everything, right? And it's going to be 2 foot shorter.
That's correct.
Let's just let them change the darn sign.
I think that's what we're agreeing to.
Yeah, that's,
You were saying to
yeah, we're going to give them a variance, though. We're going to do modification with variance.
are we allowed to do it now, or does it have to go back to Board of Adjustments if
Does
we
not.
do it that way?
You were the final decision maker.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
All right, so he makes a motion that we do a modification with variance. All right,
I'll second.
second. All right, any comments from the public? City manager, please call the vote. Commissioner Perno.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes?
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, this time it pays to be last. Meeting adjourned.